The digital clock says 4:17. I know because I watched it change from 4:16. My nervous system, what's left of it, stops sleeping somewhere around 4. My brain wakes up reaching for something that isn't there anymore. The way you'll reach for a glass on a nightstand in the dark and knock it over because you've been reaching for something that was always 6 inches to the left. The reflex survives the thing that triggered it. That's the thing nobody warned me about. My hands are still this morning, mostly. The tremor shows when I'm tired or when I hold something too long. I hold this glass of water with both hands now. I started doing that sometime in 2023 without deciding to. My body just updated, adapted the protocol without consulting me. I ran a school for 32 years, Jefferson Elementary School, Vigo County School Corporation, Terre Haute, Indiana. 412 students, 28 staff members. I knew every child by name. I knew the names of the family dogs. I knew which parents were going through custody proceedings and needed a gentle tone at pickup. I knew which teachers needed the conference room left open on Fridays and which ones needed me to check on them on Monday mornings. I had a protocol for everything. I had a system for everything. What I built for 32 years was the idea that if something matters, you document it. You write it down. You create a record. The record is the thing. And the thing that has come from me, the thing that has cost me my driver's license and my liver, and the ability to hold a child's hand without the child pulling away slightly because she's learned my hands don't feel right. That thing was an offhand remark, a sentence I've reconstructed in my head 10,000 times, a single verbal recommendation that Dr. Raymond Finley made at the end of a 15-minute cardiology consultation on a Tuesday in September of 2009. He has no record of it. His office sent me a letter in March of 2024. Dr. Finley is no longer in practice. We are unable to comment on prior clinical consultations. He has no record of it because he never wrote it down. I wrote everything down. September 9, 2009. I was 52 years old. Tom and I had been divorced 4 years. The girls were both out of the house. Kara teaching 3rd grade in Decatur by then. Beth doing graphic design in Phoenix. The Jefferson was fully mine. 38 more kids than the previous year. 3 new hires I was still training. A budget revision I'd been fighting the district about since August. I wasn't sleeping. My mother had died of a cardiac event 6 months earlier. She was 74. It was fast, which is supposed to be a comfort, and mostly it isn't. My internist referred me to cardiology for a preventive consultation. Given my family history, standard protocol, Dr. Raymond Finley, 62 years old at the time. He'd been practicing cardiology at Terre Haute Regional Medical Center since 1985. He had the kind of voice that teachers and doctors both develop over long careers, a register specifically calibrated to sound both authoritative and reassuring simultaneously. He reviewed my numbers. He asked about stress. I told him about the school. He wrote some things down. At the very end of the appointment, I was already gathering my coat. He was already standing. He said, "Patricia, a glass of red wine with dinner is actually cardioprotective. The Mediterranean data is quite clear. Given your family history, I'd start there." 12 seconds, maybe 15. I timed it once, years later, saying the sentence aloud to an empty kitchen. He didn't write it in my chart. There's no notation. I know this because I obtained copies of every record from that practice after the seizure, and there is no mention of it anywhere. Not one word. I followed the instruction for 15 years. I want to be honest about what that looked like in practice, because I was the woman who read every bulletin, who attended every continuing education seminar, who went home after the 60-minute segment on the French paradox in 1991. I remember watching that segment. I remember thinking, that seems like interesting data, and I started a green hanging folder of articles in the third drawer of the filing cabinet in my home office, organized by year. I was exactly the kind of person who follows medical instructions carefully. In October of 2009, I bought a bottle of Merlot at Kroger on US 40, $12. I poured 5 ounces with my chicken and rice on a Tuesday evening, and I thought, this is what the doctor said. That is how it started, in my kitchen on a Tuesday, following instructions. The escalation doesn't feel like escalation while it's happening. That's the part they never put in any of the literature. By 2012, I was having 2 glasses. I had read, this was documented, I had printouts, that the benefit was associated with moderate consumption. And the studies I'd seen defined moderate for women as up to 1 drink daily, but sometimes up to 2. So 2 felt documented, supported. I wasn't exceeding the available evidence. By 2017, I was 3 years from retirement. The Jefferson was in its final enrollment surge. The district had cut my assistant principal budget. I was managing more with less, which is a very elegant phrase for a very specific kind of exhaustion. I was at half a bottle most evenings, 375 milliliters. I'd done the math. It was still within what felt like a reasonable upper bound if you were generous about serving sizes, which I was. The math I was doing was the math of a woman who needed the number to stay acceptable. I know that now. By 2021, I was drinking a full bottle every night, 750 milliliters. 5 standard drinks, which is what the labels say if you look. Though I had stopped looking at the label by then, I'd stopped buying anything specific. I was buying whatever $12 bottle was on the display at the front of the aisle because I was retired by then and the display was convenient, and a $12 bottle poured exactly the same as a $22 bottle when you weren't tasting anymore, just managing. But that is the end of the story. Let me stay in order. I filed things. That's the metaphor I keep coming back to. That's the thing I can't stop turning over. In 32 years as a principal, I filed 4,412 individual student records, 2,118 parent communication logs, 1,407 incident reports, 809 IEPs and 504 accommodation plans. Every medication administered on school grounds had the time, the dose, the administering staff member, the supervising documentation, the parental consent on file, the prescribing physician's letter, the pharmacy label. If a child took an Advil at Jefferson Elementary, there were 4 pieces of paper attached to that Advil. I designed that protocol in 1998 and enforced it until my last day. The instruction that reorganized my nervous system has no paper attached to it. He said it once. I've said it to myself 10,000 times since. A glass of red wine with dinner is actually cardioprotective. The Mediterranean data is quite clear. It exists only inside my body now. In my liver, Grade 2 hepatic steatosis, permanent structural damage. In my peripheral nervous system, the burning at the soles of my feet between 2 and 4 in the morning that the neurologist calls peripheral neuropathy and that I call Tuesday. In my medical records at Decatur Memorial, where Dr. Anita Sharma writes careful notes that all exist in documented form, all signed, all dated, all traceable. The thing that started all of those records was a sentence that isn't in any of them. I spent 32 years building a documentation system that assumed the important things get written down. The most important thing that ever happened to me medically was never written down. The body develops tolerance. Dr. Finley didn't tell me that. The mechanism is this. With daily alcohol consumption over months and years, the brain recalibrates its GABA-glutamate balance to function in the presence of ethanol. It expects the compound. It builds its baseline around the compound. After 6 to 8 years of daily drinking, the nervous system isn't enhanced by the alcohol anymore. It's normalized by it. The alcohol isn't doing anything extra. It's just maintaining the new floor. I didn't know any of this. I had a green hanging folder full of articles about the Mediterranean diet. None of the articles explained the kindling effect. None of them mentioned that each time you try to reduce, the withdrawal is more severe than the last time, that the nervous system learns to fight back harder with each attempt, that the body punishes the effort to leave with escalating severity, as if it has been watching you, and has concluded that the only way to keep you is to make departure impossible. The trap gets tighter the more you pull. I tried to cut back 3 times between 2019 and 2023. By the third attempt, my hands were shaking by noon. The first thing I lost was sleep. I didn't know I was losing it. I thought the wine was helping me sleep. I was going down faster, which I interpreted as sleeping better. What was actually happening? Alcohol suppresses REM. It puts you under quickly and pulls you out of deep sleep cycles repeatedly through the night. You wake up more tired than you went to bed. You drink more coffee. You need the evening glass more because you're more tired than the day before. The loop was installed without my knowing. I ran the Jefferson on interrupted sleep cycles for approximately 7 years before I retired, and I thought I was managing well. And Gail Donovan covered for me twice in parent meetings during my last 18 months in ways she never mentioned and I never acknowledged. Gail Donovan, 57 years old. She'd been my head secretary since 1997. She knew the name of every child in that building the way I did. She was the first person I told about the divorce. She brought a casserole when my mother died. She covered for me in those meetings, smoothly, professionally, without a word about it. I sometimes wonder if she knew. We still exchange Christmas cards, and I have never mentioned it, and I don't know that I ever will. Beth's wedding was in Phoenix in October of 2021. I was there. I'm in the photographs. I can see myself in the photographs. The blue dress I bought specifically. The pearl earrings my mother left me. My hair done the morning of the ceremony. I don't remember the ceremony. I remember the reception had Chardonnay that was better than what I'd been buying. I remember how it tasted. I remember thinking the caterers had made a good choice. My daughter got married in October of 2021, and what I retained from it is the taste of the white wine at the reception. Beth didn't call for 3 months after. When she finally did, she said, "You were there, but you weren't there." I didn't respond right away. I thought about the 3 months of silence, and I thought about the photographs, and I thought about the Chardonnay. And I said, "I know." because there was nothing else to say, and saying anything else would have been one more undocumented thing in a long list. She said, "I love you. I can't watch this." She said that in a text message in February, when Kara called to tell her I was in the hospital. I read it from a hospital bed. I didn't call her back. The moment I understood what was happening was a Sunday in March of 2023. I woke at 5 a.m. My heart was moving at a speed and pattern that didn't feel right. My hands were shaking. Not the fine residual tremor I carry now, but a visible, uncontrollable oscillation. I knocked my glasses off the nightstand, reaching for them. I lay still for 2 minutes. I was doing an inventory, the kind I'd spent 32 years teaching children to do when they were scared. Stop, take stock, identify the problem, look for the solution. I went to the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator. There was a bottle from the night before with about 3 inches remaining. I poured half a glass. The shaking stopped inside of 4 minutes. My heart returned to something close to normal. I sat on the kitchen counter in the early morning quiet, holding the glass with both hands. I noticed that even then that I had started holding glasses with both hands, and I understood. I had been holding a glass of wine with dinner for 15 years because a doctor told me it was cardioprotective. I was holding a glass of wine at 5 in the morning to stop my hands from shaking. The word for the distance between those two things is dependence. The path from one to the other took 15 years, and no one documented it, and it was entirely invisible until the morning I couldn't stop shaking without the thing that had made me start shaking. December 9th, 2023 was a Monday. I had the seizure alone. I was in my kitchen on Locust Street, the house on Terre Haute I'd lived in since 1988, the house Tom and I bought together, the house I raised the girls in, the house where the green hanging folder with the Mediterranean diet articles was still in the third drawer of the filing cabinet. I don't remember it. Kara had called 3 times that morning without a response. She drove 45 minutes from Decatur and let herself in with her key. She found me on the kitchen floor next to the island. The 911 call is documented. The EMS report is documented. The hospital admission record is documented. 2 nights at Terre Haute Regional. Alcohol withdrawal seizure, grand mal, tonic-clonic, estimated duration unknown as there was no witness. Alcohol withdrawal syndrome. That's what it said on the discharge paperwork. All the documentation I never had for 15 years, suddenly present. Every form filled out, every box checked. When I was well enough to talk, Kara sat next to the hospital bed and held my hand. She didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, "Mom, we're going to figure this out." She said it the way I used to talk to parents sitting in my office when something had gone wrong with their child. That particular register, authoritative and reassuring simultaneously. She learned it from somewhere. I don't know that she knows where she learned it. This is Kara's guest room. She converted it from storage in February. Put in the twin bed, the light maple dresser, the gauze curtain over the window that faces the neighbor's garage. The street light makes a parallelogram on the wall opposite, pale orange-white. I've spent 4 hours watching it cross the wall most nights. I can't drive. Illinois revoked my license after the seizure. 3 years. It's in the administrative record, fully documented. The first official piece of paper that has the word seizure and my name on the same line. So Kara takes me to physical therapy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She takes me to Dr. Sharma's appointments. She leaves the Librium on the kitchen counter each morning before she leaves for work. Chlordiazepoxide, 10 milligrams. I'm at 40% of the initial taper target. The pharmacist at the Walgreens on the El Dorado Street is a young man named Jesse. He fills it weekly. He looks up when I come in and says hello by name now. There is documentation for everything Jesse dispenses. There is a paper trail I could reconstruct to the milligram. The neuropathy in my feet is worse at night, between 2 and 4 in the morning, before the nervous system settles into whatever passes for sleep. The soles of both feet burn the way a fluorescent tube sounds, a low, unlocatable hum that isn't painful exactly and isn't not painful. Dr. Sharma calls it peripheral neuropathy secondary to chronic alcohol exposure, bilateral, permanent. I drove for 47 years without an accident. I will not drive again for at least 3 years. Emma is 7. She's in 2nd grade. She has Mrs. Carver this year, who Kara says is wonderful, organized, genuinely loves the kids. Emma knows something happened to Grandma. She doesn't know what it was. She's been told Grandma is sick and getting better and is going to stay here for a while. I watch her in the mornings when Kara hasn't left yet and Emma is eating cereal at the table. She has her mother's patience and her grandmother's attention to detail. She lines her crayons up by color when she draws, which she didn't learn from Kara, which must have come from further back. She looks up at me sometimes with a very particular expression, not concern exactly, more like calibration. She's reading something in the room and adjusting accordingly. She doesn't run to hug me the way she did the year before. She walks over. She puts her arms around me carefully. She learned to do that in a way I didn't teach her and cannot undo. I know the names of children for a reason. Attention is the only gift a principal has that costs nothing and means everything. I watched my granddaughter learn to hesitate before touching me. There is a laminated photo on the bureau, the Jefferson Elementary staff photo from 2018. 28 people. I'm in the center with the district superintendent, and Gail standing to my left in a yellow cardigan I remember her buying at the Macy's on 3rd Avenue. We're all in front of the building. Everyone is smiling. I'm smiling. It was mid-September, the first week of school, before everything accelerates. I look like what I was, the woman who knew every name, who had a protocol for everything, who built the documentation system that meant nothing at Jefferson happened without a record. Next to the photo, the Jefferson ID badge is coiled on the corner of the dresser. Blue lanyard, plastic laminate, photo from 2017. I look younger in it, which isn't surprising. 2 years is 2 years. Principal in white block letters below my name. I took it off on my last day in August of 2019. I meant to put it in the memory box. I've moved twice since then. I've carried it between houses without putting it away. I don't know why I haven't put it away, or I think I do know. I think I know exactly why I haven't put it away. I think it's the same reason I still hold cups with 2 hands and wake up at 4:17 in my daughter's guest room and stay very still while the orange light moves across the wall. Some things have been lost long enough that you don't know what it means anymore to put them away. Dr. Finley retired in 2019. The same year I did. I think about that sometimes. He retired somewhere, probably played golf, probably had a party, probably doesn't remember the consultation, probably never thought about it again, because why would you think about an offhand remark at the end of a 15-minute appointment, a sentence you've said to dozens of patients in passing, something you read in a journal in 1993 and cited informally for years because the data looked solid at the time? He doesn't have a document. He doesn't have a record. That consultation has no paper. I keep thinking about the green hanging folder, third drawer, home office, organized by year, 12 articles. I left them in the house when I moved to Decatur. I wonder if whoever bought the house found them. I wonder if any of the articles mentioned kindling. I wonder if any of them said that each time your body withdraws from this compound, it learns to fight harder to keep it. I wonder if any of them mentioned that the recommendation you were following for 15 years would one day be the recommendation that a panel of researchers would quietly retract as observational data without causal evidence, that the resveratrol studies wouldn't replicate, that the AHA would eventually issue guidance saying they'd been wrong about what they'd thought they knew. I wonder which drawer he put the retraction in. The clock says 4:31. Kara gets up at 6:15. She'll make coffee and set the Librium on the counter before she wakes Emma. She'll do it without asking if I want it. She'll do it the way I used to leave the conference room open on Friday afternoons without asking the teachers who needed it. You learn to offer things without making people explain what they need. She cried in the car once. Emma told me. Emma heard her in the driveway before school one morning. Emma asked me what was wrong with Mommy, and I told her Mommy was tired and that sometimes grown-ups cry when they're tired, and it doesn't mean something is permanently broken. I said that to a 7-year-old. I have said most of the true things in my life to children first. The orange parallelogram has moved about 4 inches up the wall since I started watching. I still know every name. Frank Carver in kindergarten, who can't hold his pencil right, but draws the most specific dogs I've ever seen a 5-year-old draw. Amanda Osei Mensah in 2nd grade, who has an October birthday and whose parents send in cupcakes with the little flags. I remember them all. I carry them all in here under the neuropathy and the Librium and the 72 months of documentation I've accumulated since the thing that has no documentation. I still know every name. It's just that some mornings, coming out of the dark at 4:17, my brain still reaches for the glass, and the reflex is faster than the understanding, and I hold both sides of the water cup with both hands until the reflex stops reaching, and I wait.